Hello all you out there, the one and only Captain Rendrag here in the beautiful Cranston, Rhode Island's bike path. Great path if you guys have never hit this. A lot of history on here, including what I'm leaning against right now. It wasn't always a bike path. It was actually train tracks, and train tracks that went back to the 1830s. And a lot of history went through these train tracks, including toting one of our United States presidents, Abraham Lincoln, back and forth to Providence, where he would be doing his spiels. And one day I will hook you guys up and show you some of the areas where he did his speeches in Rhode Island, by the way, his presidential speeches. But what I am leaning up against right now is very, very much so attached to the American Civil War and Abraham Lincoln. This is the old train station area for the loadout for this area of Cranston, Knightsville. Down the road is Providence, not too far from us. This area was a big transfer of Union soldiers. This very, excuse me, Mr. Airplane, this very train station right here, and the wacky guy coming up behind me. This was 100% back in the day where a lot of Union boys would be sent out into the carts of those trains, and unfortunately a lot of them would not come back. So there's definitely a lot of energy in this area, and a lot of young men, this was their last stop here in Rhode Island before they were sent down south to be brought back in pine boxes, some of them not brought back at all. And as we know it, November 19th is around the corner, which is Remembrance Day, which is one of the reasons I am doing a heavy spiel on the American Civil War. The one and only Captain Rendrag. There's a whack job coming up behind me. I'll let you guys
go. Open the fucking door, bitch. You motherfucker. Oh, bother. You're gonna need a whole jar of honey to soothe that ass after I'm done beating it. You dirty slut fucker. Get ready to feel the wrath of the poo, you pathetic shit.
The one and only Captain Rendrag here on the bike path of Cranston. Now, beforehand, I was talking to you about how this used to be train tracks and how historically important these train tracks were to the United States. Because as a matter of fact, a good portion of the Union Army would meet up in Providence, cross-ride, and get sent down to their last days. Now, what I'm about to show you is one of those things that I have dug up, and it took a lot of digging with history-wise to get this stuff, and I have found a lot of the foundation still left over. Where we are standing, right here, you can kind of see, I'll show you guys, the crossover where the tracks used to be down this end. You ready? And there's even some construction material from the buildings that were over here. So there was a crossway that went right across here, and I'll show you where the other layaway is. It's pretty easy to find. And bang. Right there. And I apologize again for the coyote poops right there. But what makes this cross section so important to the American Civil War, you might be asking? Well, there's actually a real big importance to this area here, because this is where they would load some very devastating armament that would go into a very devastating artillery piece down in Georgia. That mortar would set their shelling downtown. What the heck is it? Excuse me a second. Sorry guys, I had a little bit of a hiccup, some brain freeze. I was drinking some good old Flunkin' Flonits, being in the Rhode Island, New England mood. But like I was saying, right over here is where they would load some of the armament for the big mortars that General Sherman would have moved on these tracks, by the way, all the way down south to where they would start shelling Atlanta. And how I know that this is exactly the area, first of all, I looked up where the old maps of the buildings were, and it's right here. And one of the other things that I'll show you that gives you a kind of a hint that this historically was an area that was of great significance to the American Civil War. Like I said, that ammunition that shelled that area was cast not too far down here in Providence. And I'll show you a bit here that you're gonna get a little kick out of. You ready for this? What is the name of this street, you think? That's right, Sherman Ave. You can't make this stuff up, guys. The one and only Captain Rendrag. I'll bring you some more bits and pieces of the American Civil War that are very important to Rhode Island. And remember, Remembrance Day is right around the corner. What is up, guys? The one and only Captain Rendrag on site of the historical tower here in Newport. I go on a lot of sites over here in Rhode Island, and there is all sorts of myths and history behind this thing. No, it was not built by the Vikings. No, there's a lot to know. It did actually belong to one of America's most notorious historians, Benedict Arnold's grandfather before that. It is nothing more than a grain tower. And you ask, why are there windows in this that look like defense mechanisms? Because they are. At the time that this thing is put in, the natives are not too happy with the situation, the deal that they got with, the purchase of the land. And quite a few times they would try to go at this thing to gain control of the area. So it has absolutely nothing to do with the Vikings, and it has nothing to do with anything other than the fact it was a grain tower that was modified as a defense mechanism, just in case the natives had decided they wanted to attack the area. If you took a site of this, all this property prior to hand, there's nothing but fields over here from Mr. Arnold, and all these buildings gone. And we all know what happened with Benedict Arnold's grandson later on in American history. If you do not know that, I can fill you in on that later on. But truth to the fiction, again, nothing but a grain tower that had a really great backup thing, kind of like multiple purposes of being able to defend the area against the natives. That's why we got the ports up there that look like defense mechanisms, because they are. And then a very hard wooden door would be right here circulating this thing around. The floors are right there, and as you can see over here in the corner, there actually is an embracement where they might have been able to put an artillery piece in there. So right there. And then you can see the ports for the grinding mill and everything, all the holes in there to hold that in. And of course the flooring above that. So it really was a great structure, but no, Vikings had nothing to do with putting this here. So there's your Rhode Island history for you guys, and it's the truth told by the one and only Captain Rendrag. This is not Wikipedia, this is not AI, this is resources coming from an old-fashioned book.